How to fix a leaking ball valve. Sometimes you might go to use a ball valve and you realize it's dripping on the floor. Now it'll usually be leaking from this packing nut. Now ball valve leaking is not too common, but when it happens you can easily repair them. All you need is an adjustable wrench and some Teflon tape. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the packing nut off, put packing behind it, and then we'll reinstall the nut. Now in order to do that, we need to take this handle off first. Now you're going to want to shut off water to the nut, and you can do that by just shutting off the valve itself. Now, if that doesn't work, you can shut off water to the valve. So now that I got the valve off, I'm going to remove this nut that holds the handle on. There are two nuts. So put this wrench on, and I'm just going to loosen the nut counterclockwise. Make sure to adjust it to the size of the nut. It'll just come right off. These aren't too hard to do. Alright, that just loosens. And then there's this locking washer behind the nut. Not all valves have it, but this particular one does. Set those off to the side and take the handle off. And now what we have left is this stem with the flat side facing up. You want to make sure the stem does not move as you're trying to loosen the packing nut. And now I'm going to go loosen the packing nut. I'm going to put a wrench on the nut and then loosen clockwise, and that should just unscrew. Now what this nut does is it presses the packing in place to seal around this stem. And now we're able to make packing to wrap around the stem. And I do that with this Teflon tape. Pull off a piece. Doesn't have to be very long. It's a few inches long. And now I'm going to make this into like a rope. You just run it through your fingers like this. And that, make it into like a string that you can wrap around the stem, and then I'll go behind the nut. Alright, so now you need to be careful when you do this because it may want to slide out of your hands. So I'm going to hold one end here and try to run it around. You don't need too much. You'll kind of know when you're putting too much in. You want to make sure that none of this Teflon tape gets on those threads. And now you can kind of just pull it off and it should snap, leaving a bunch behind on that stem. And now I'm able to put the nut right over it, but you want to make sure that there isn't any excess that'll get caught up in the threads. I got that pushed back. Push it on. I'm trying to force all that stuff back in, and now I'm going to tighten this nut. That's pushing it down, and it's pushing against the stem and the inside of the valve body, sealing it up but allowing these two parts to continue to move. So now I'm just going to tighten that up. This piece here should not move. And now I'm just going to tighten the packing nut with the wrench. You don't want to over tighten this, but you should get it pretty snug. Alright, it's good enough. And now we're going to test this to make sure that worked. So if you shut off the water to the valve, turn that back on, or just turn the valve itself on. You can see it doesn't appear to be leaking. Everything seems good. If you want, you can leave the handle off for a while and make sure that this stays dry, and then you can put the handle on later. But now that I know everything's good, I'm going to put the handle back on. So I'm going to take this locking washer, put that on, if your valve has it, and put the nut back on. And then I'm just going to give it a few quick tightens with the wrench. I'll hold the handle in place, adjust the wrench to fit the nut, just tighten the nut. There There we go. It's good there. You can see it can freely operate it now without it leaking.